The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. Ambassador Zethkar stood at the center podium, his blue skin pale with worry. Around him, representatives from 47 different worlds sat in their floating chairs, waiting for him to speak. Fellow council members, Zethkar began, his voice shaking slightly. The Kreth Mori have taken another system. The Altair colonies are gone. 12 billion souls, lost in 3 days. A low murmur swept through the hall. The Kreth Mori were like nothing the galaxy had seen before. They came from the dark spaces between stars, moving in massive black ships that looked like twisted insects. Wherever they went, they left nothing alive. Counselor Yithran of the Ethereal Collective floated forward. Her people were tall and thin, with silver skin that glowed softly. "How many fleets have we lost now?" she asked. 17, Zethkar replied. The Jokthari sent their finest warriors. The Kreth Mori destroyed them all. The Mechanical Unity sent 1,000 war drones. They lasted 6 hours. Even the Void Hunters tried to stop them. They never came back. The silence stretched on. Every species in the galaxy had tried to fight the Kreth Mori. Every species had failed. The savage invaders were now only 3 systems away from the core worlds where billions of beings lived in peace. "What about the Titan Guard?" asked General Morks of the Crystal Empire. His rocky body glowed red with stress. "They have never been defeated. The Titans fought them at Proxima Station," Zethkar said quietly. 5,000 of the galaxy's greatest warriors. The Kreth Mori killed them all in 1 day. The council members looked at each other with growing fear. If the Titans could not stop the Kreth Mori, who could? "There is one option we have not discussed," said a small voice from the back. Everyone turned to look at Counselor Piptal, a tiny green creature from the trader worlds. He rarely spoke in council meetings, preferring to handle business and commerce. "The humans," he said simply. The entire hall erupted in shocked whispers. Some council members stood up from their chairs. Others made sounds of fear or disgust. "Absolutely not," Yithran's voice cut through the noise. "Do you know what you are suggesting? The humans are. They are not natural." Zethkar felt his heart beating faster. Everyone knew about the humans. They had joined the galactic community 300 years ago. At first, other species thought they were just another weak race from a small world. That changed quickly. "Remember the siege of Kepler," whispered General Morks. 300 human soldiers held off 30,000 Jokthari warriors for 6 months. How is that possible? "Oh, or the Battle of the Void," added another voice. One human ship destroyed an entire Phantom fleet. The Phantoms had 50 vessels. "The humans have never lost a war," Piptal said calmly. "Not once. Every time someone fights them, the humans find a way to win." Yithran's glow grew brighter with anger. "That is exactly why we should not ask for their help. The humans do not fight like civilized beings. They fight like demons." Zethkar had heard the stories. Every military officer in the galaxy knew them. Stories that made no sense. Stories of humans doing impossible things in battle. There was the tale of the human ship Defiance. When pirates disabled its engines and weapons, the human crew used the ship's water supply to create steam rockets. They turned their own vessel into a weapon and rammed the pirate fleet. Or the Battle of New Geneva, where human soldiers fought for 3 days without sleep. When they ran out of ammunition, they used rocks. When they ran out of rocks, they used their bare hands. When reinforcements arrived, they found the humans still fighting with broken bones and terrible wounds. "The humans think differently about war," said Admiral Korth of the Star Navy. His tentacles writhed with unease. "When we fight, we try to win with the least cost. When humans fight, they act like losing is not an option, because for them, it is not," Piptal replied. "Have you studied human history? Their world tried to kill them for millions of years. Ice that covered continents, volcanoes that blocked out the sun, diseases that killed half their population. They survived all of it. That does not explain their military success, Yithran argued. It explains everything, Piptal said. Other species fight to win. Humans fight to not lose. There is a difference. Zethkar remembered a report he had read about human military doctrine. It had disturbed him greatly. Human soldiers were taught that every battle might be their last. They prepared for defeat and death as carefully as they prepared for victory. I have seen human battle footage, Admiral Korth said quietly. They do things that should not work. They sacrifice their ships and soldiers. But somehow, they always save more than they lose. It is like they turn losing into winning, which is why asking them for help would be like releasing demons to fight devils, Yithran said. Yes, the humans might stop the Krethmori. But then we would have humans as the galaxy's dominant military power. Is that what we want? The question hung in the air like a poison cloud. Everyone knew what humans could do. The problem was, nobody understood how they did it. The Krethmori will be here in 2 months, Zethkar said finally. If they reach the core worlds, billions will die. Every species in this council will be destroyed. At least the humans have never attacked us without cause. Yet, Yithran muttered, the humans have been good neighbors for 3 centuries, Piptal pointed out. They trade fairly. They honor agreements. They only fight when attacked, because no one has been stupid enough to attack them. General Mork slammed his rocky fist on his chair. Even the war-mad slavers know better than to challenge human space. The debate continued for hours, but everyone knew how it would end. The council was out of options. Every military force in the galaxy had tried to stop the Krethmori. Every force had failed. As night fell on Nexus Prime, the council took their vote. The decision was close, but fear of the Krethmori won over fear of the humans. By morning, a message would be sent to Earth. The galaxy was asking its most feared species for help. Zethkar just hoped they would not regret it. In the darkness outside the council hall, the first Krethmori scout ships were already moving toward the core worlds. Soon, everyone would learn why humans were the galaxy's most dreaded warriors. Admiral Sarah Chen read the message from the Galactic Council 3 times before she believed it. The entire galaxy was asking Earth for military help. She had been expecting this call for months, ever since reports of the Krethmori first reached human space. Chen walked to the window of Global Defense Command and looked out at Earth's blue skies. Somewhere out there, an enemy was destroying entire civilizations. Soon, it would be humanity's turn to respond. Get me the Security Council, she told her aide. Within an hour, the leaders of Earth were gathered in the command center. 12 star systems lost, Chen reported to the assembly. Every major military force in the galaxy has been defeated. The Krethmori are moving toward the core worlds. President Martinez leaned forward. What do we know about these invaders? Not much, Chen admitted. They use organic technology. Bioships that regenerate damage. They seem to be controlled by some kind of group mind. Most importantly, they have never retreated from a battle. Neither have we, said General Harrison from Luna Base. Chen nodded. I recommend we send Task Force Valkyrie. 12 ships, 5,000 personnel. The room fell silent. Director Kim of the Strategic Planning Office looked shocked. 12 ships? Sarah, the aliens sent entire fleets, hundreds of vessels. And you want to send 12? The Jactari sent 30,000 warriors to one battle, Chen replied calmly. They all died. Numbers are not going to win this war. Strategy will. What makes you think we can succeed where everyone else failed? Asked President Martinez. Chen smiled, but there was no humor in it, because we are not everyone else. 3 days later, Task Force Valkyrie began its journey to the war zone. The fleet was small but modern. The flagship was UHS Indomitable, a heavy cruiser that had seen action in the border wars. 11 other ships followed, destroyers, frigates, and support vessels. On board the Indomitable, alien observers watched the humans prepare for war. Ambassador Veltar of the Council had insisted on joining the mission. He wanted to see human military methods for himself. What he saw disturbed him greatly. The humans did not rush around or shout orders like other species did before battle. Instead, they moved with calm purpose. Soldiers cleaned their weapons slowly and carefully. Engineers checked every system twice, then checked again. "Why are they so quiet?" Veltar asked Captain Rodriguez, the ship's commander. "They are thinking," Rodriguez replied. "About the mission. About their families. About what might go wrong." Veltar watched a group of human marines writing letters. "What are they doing?" "Writing to their loved ones," Rodriguez explained. "In case they do not come back." This shocked Veltar. Other species wrote victory songs before battle or performed ceremonies to ensure success. Only humans prepared for death with such care. In the engineering section, Veltar saw something even stranger. The engineers were modifying equipment far beyond its normal limits. They strengthened hull plating, increased power flow to weapons, and built backup systems for the backup systems. "Is this safe?" Veltar asked Chief Engineer Park. Park shrugged. "Probably not. But it gives us more options if things go bad." "You expect things to go bad?" "We always expect things to go bad," Park replied. "That way, when they do, we are ready." Veltar learned that humans had a saying: "Hope for the best, prepare for the worst." It seemed they took this very seriously. In the tactical center, Veltar watched human officers plan their attack. They created hundreds of battle scenarios, including many that ended in defeat. This confused him greatly. "Why plan for failure?" he asked Commander Walsh, the tactical officer. "Because if we know how we might lose, we can find ways to avoid it," Walsh explained. "Or at least make sure our loss helps someone else win later." The aliens had no concept like this. When they planned battles, they only planned for victory. Humans planned for every possibility, including their own destruction. As the journey continued, Veltar noticed other strange human behaviors. They told stories about ancient battles where small forces defeated large ones. They sang songs about heroes who died rather than surrender. They seemed to find joy in tales of impossible odds. "Do humans like war?" Veltar asked Admiral Chen during dinner. "No," Chen replied. "We hate war. But we understand it better than most species." "I do not understand." Chen was quiet for a moment. "Our world taught us that survival is not guaranteed. Every day, every year, every century, Earth tried to kill us. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, diseases. We learned that the universe does not care if we live or die. Other species learned this too," Veltar pointed out. "No," Chen said. "Other species lived on stable worlds with predictable challenges. They learned to live in harmony with their environment. We learned to fight ours. And win." When Task Force Valkyrie reached the war zone, they found horror waiting for them. The space around the Altair system was filled with wreckage. Thousands of ships floated dead in the void. Alien vessels from a dozen different species, all destroyed by the Krethmori. "Mother of God," whispered Captain Rodriguez as he saw the scale of destruction. The Krethmori fleet was massive. Dark bioships that looked like twisted insects filled the space around Altair Prime. Long-range sensors counted over 2,000 enemy vessels. Task Force Valkyrie had 12. "Admiral," said Commander Walsh, "we are outnumbered 167 to 1. "I have seen worse odds," Chen replied calmly. Veltar stared at her. "When?" "The Battle of Wolf 359, the defense of New Sydney, the last stand at Titan Base." Chen's voice was steady. "Humans have a gift for turning bad situations into impossible victories." "How?" Chen smiled. And this time there was humor in it. "By refusing to accept that impossible means impossible." The Admiral opened communications to the entire task force. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Yes. We are outnumbered. Yes. The enemy is strong. Yes. Many good people have died fighting them. But we are here now, and we are human. That changes everything." Across the fleet, 5,000 humans prepared for battle. They checked their weapons one last time. said prayers to whatever gods they believed in, and thought about home. They were scared, but they were ready. The Krith Mori had never faced humans in battle. They had conquered every other species through overwhelming force and brutal violence. They expected these new enemies to run or die quickly like all the others. They were about to learn why the galaxy feared humanity more than any other species. Admiral Chen gave the order to attack. The Krith Mori attacked exactly as they always did. 2,000 bioships rushed forward in a massive wave, their dark hulls glistening like wet insects. They had used this tactic to crush every enemy they had ever faced. The human fleet did something no other species had ever done. Instead of meeting the charge head-on or running away, the 12 ships scattered in different directions. What are they doing? Ambassador Veltar asked in confusion. From his position on the Indomitable's bridge, the human formation looked random and chaotic. Surviving, Admiral Chen replied calmly. The Krith Mori swarm followed their usual plan. They split into groups to chase the scattered human ships, confident they could destroy each one separately. They had done this 1,000 times before, but humans did not fight like other species. The destroyer UHS Wolverine suddenly spun around and fired all its missiles at the pursuing Krith Mori. Then, instead of running, it flew straight into the enemy formation. The crew had turned their own ship into a massive bullet. "Captain Morrison has lost his mind," Veltar cried. "No," said Commander Walsh, watching his tactical screen. "He is buying us time." The Wolverine crashed into 3 enemy bioships, destroying them and itself. But in those few seconds, the other human ships had repositioned themselves exactly where Admiral Chen wanted them. "All ships, Pattern Delta 7, Chen ordered. Veltar had no idea what Pattern Delta 7 meant, but the human fleet moved like they had practiced this maneuver 1,000 times. The scattered ships suddenly formed a triangle around the largest group of Krith Mori vessels. The aliens found themselves trapped in a crossfire. Human weapons blazed from 3 directions at once. The bioships tried to regenerate their damage, but the humans kept switching targets, never giving any single ship time to heal. "Impossible," Veltar whispered. "How did they coordinate this without talking to each other?" "We did talk," Walsh explained. "We have been planning this battle for 3 days. Every ship knows 20 different attack patterns. The Admiral just has to say a number, but the Krith Mori were adapting too. Their bioships began moving in new formations, trying to break out of the human trap. And there were so many of them. For every enemy ship destroyed, 10 more took its place. The frigate UHS Defiant took heavy damage when 5 Krith Mori vessels surrounded it. The ship's hull was torn open, its engines destroyed. By all logic, Captain Kim should have surrendered or abandoned ship. Instead, she did something that made Veltar question human sanity. "All hands, this is the captain," Kim announced over the comm system. "We have lost main engines and weapons. However, we still have emergency thrusters and a full load of torpedo tubes. Prepare for ramming speed." The crew did not panic. They did not cry or beg for rescue. Instead, they strapped themselves into emergency seats and waited for orders. Captain Kim used the Defiant's remaining power to modify the torpedo tubes. Instead of firing weapons, she loaded them with escape pods containing her crew. Then she aimed her dying ship at the largest enemy vessel and hit the thrusters. "Crew away," she shouted. "See you on the other side." The Defiant struck the Krith Mori bioship like a hammer. Both vessels exploded in a ball of fire, but Captain Kim's crew was already floating in space, waiting for rescue in their modified torpedo pods. "She turned her own ship into a weapon," Veltar said in shock. "And she saved her people at the same time. Standard human tactics," Admiral Chen replied. "We do not waste lives. But we do not waste opportunities either." The battle continued for 6 hours. The humans lost 4 ships, but they destroyed over 300 enemy vessels. More importantly, they did something no other species had ever done. They made the Krith Mori retreat. Veltar watched in amazement as the surviving enemy bioships pulled back to regroup. The Krith Mori had never retreated from anything. Ever. "How?" he asked Admiral Chen. "How did you force them to withdraw?" Chen studied the tactical display. Because we fought them wrong. Wrong. Every other species tried to match their strength with strength. Big fleets. Powerful weapons. Traditional tactics. The Kreth-Mori are designed to crush that kind of opposition. And humans? We do not fight fair, Chen said with a slight smile. We fight to win. Veltar reviewed the battle recordings. The humans had done things that made no military sense. They used damaged ships as weapons. They turned retreat into attack. They sacrificed vessels to save crews, then used those crews to help other ships. Most disturbing of all, the human soldiers seemed to enjoy the impossible odds. When things got worse, they fought harder. When they were outnumbered, they smiled. Commander Walsh was coordinating rescue operations for the survivors from the destroyed ships. Every human who could be saved was being saved. No one was left behind. Why do you risk so much to save so few? Veltar asked. Walsh looked at him strangely. Because they are our people. You do not leave family behind. But it is not tactically efficient. Efficiency is not the point, Walsh replied. Humans fight better when they know their comrades will come for them. Fear of death makes most species careful. For us, knowing we will not be abandoned makes us brave. Veltar was beginning to understand why the galaxy feared humans. It was not just their weapons, or their ships, or their tactics. It was their attitude toward war itself. Other species fought to win. Humans fought like losing was not an option. There was a difference. And that difference was terrifying. The Kreth-Mori were regrouping on the far side of the system. Long-range sensors showed them calling for reinforcements. Soon, thousands more enemy ships would arrive. Admiral, reported Lieutenant Hayes, enemy fleet strength is increasing. We count 4,000 bioships now, with more arriving every hour. Good, Chen replied. Veltar stared at her. Good? How is this good? Because now they are angry, Chen explained. Angry enemies make mistakes. And we are very good at taking advantage of mistakes. The Admiral opened communications to the surviving fleet. 8 ships remained operational, though all had battle damage. All ships. This is Admiral Chen. The enemy thinks they have us trapped. They believe superior numbers guarantee victory. They do not understand humans very well. She paused, looking out at the approaching enemy fleet. We are going to show them what happens when you corner a species that evolved fighting for survival every day of its existence. We are going to show them why the galaxy fears us. Across the fleet, human crews prepared for the next battle. They repaired what could be fixed, replaced what could be replaced, and improvised solutions for everything else. The Kreth-Mori had never faced anything like humanity. They were about to learn why humans were considered the galaxy's ultimate warriors. It was not because humans were the strongest, or the fastest, or the smartest. It was because humans simply refused to lose. During the temporary ceasefire, Ambassador Veltar could not stop thinking about what he had witnessed. The human battle tactics made no sense by galactic standards, yet they had worked. The Kreth-Mori had actually retreated. He found Admiral Chen in the ship's medical bay, visiting wounded crew members. She spoke to each soldier personally, asking about their injuries and their families. This confused Veltar greatly. Admiral, he said when she finished her rounds, I must ask you something. How do humans fight so differently from every other species? Chen gestured for him to follow her to the observation deck. Through the transparent walls, they could see the wreckage of the first battle floating in space. Human rescue ships were still searching for survivors. What do you know about Earth? Chen asked. It is your home world, a small blue planet in an unremarkable system. That is where you are wrong, Chen said. Earth is the most dangerous planet any species has ever evolved on. Veltar looked confused. Dangerous how? It has no supervolcanoes. No toxic atmosphere. No deadly radiation. It has all of those things, Chen replied. Just not all at the same time. She activated a holographic display showing Earth's history. Images of ice sheets covering continents, volcanic eruptions blocking out the sun, and massive asteroids striking the surface filled the air. Every few thousand years, something tries to kill everything on our planet, Chen explained. Ice ages that last for millions of years. Volcanic eruptions that poison the atmosphere. Asteroid impacts that destroy entire continents. Disease outbreaks that kill half of all life. Veltar studied the images. How did anything survive? By adapting. By changing. By never giving up. Chen pointed to another display showing human evolution. We did not just evolve to compete with other species for food and territory. We evolved to survive planetary extinction events. The ambassador began to understand. Other species evolved on stable worlds. Exactly. Your people. The Jacthari. The mechanical unity. All the great civilizations of the galaxy. You come from worlds where the environment was predictable, where cooperation and harmony led to survival. Chen changed the display to show other alien homeworlds. Beautiful, peaceful planets, with stable climates and abundant resources. We come from a world that regularly tries to murder everything living on it, she continued. Cooperation was not enough for humans. We had to learn to fight against impossible odds. Because the alternative was extinction. Veltar thought about human military doctrine, their obsession with backup plans and redundant systems, their willingness to sacrifice anything except their people, their refusal to accept defeat. Is that why you prepare for failure? He asked. We do not prepare for failure, Chen corrected. We prepare for catastrophe. Because on Earth, catastrophe is normal. She showed him more human history. Stories of cities destroyed by earthquakes, rebuilt, then destroyed again by floods. Civilizations that survived ice ages by moving underground for thousands of years. Populations that bounced back from diseases that killed 9 out of 10 people. Other species develop philosophy based on balance and harmony. Chen said. Humans developed philosophy based on survival and adaptation. Veltar remembered something that had disturbed him during the battle. Your soldiers smiled when the situation got worse. Why? Because that is when humans are at their best, Chen replied. When everything is going wrong, when the odds are impossible, when any rational being would surrender, that is when human training and instinct take over. She called up a file on human military history. Battles where small forces held off massive armies. Last stands that turned into victories. Desperate actions that changed the course of wars. We have stories about these moments, Chen continued. The Battle of Thermopylae, where 300 soldiers held off an army of hundreds of thousands. The Siege of Stalingrad, where an entire city refused to surrender despite being surrounded and starving. The Defense of New Geneva, where human colonists fought off alien raiders for 3 days without rest. These are real events? Veltar asked. All real. And there are thousands more like them. Chen's voice grew serious. Other species fight to win. Humans fight to not lose. There is a critical difference. Veltar was beginning to understand the source of galactic fear. When you fight to not lose, you never stop fighting. Never, Chen agreed. Because for humans, stopping means dying. And we are very bad at dying. She showed him human entertainment. Movies about heroes who won impossible battles. Books about characters who refused to give up even when everything was lost. Songs about fighting against overwhelming odds. Your children learn about war through stories, Veltar observed. They learn about survival through stories, Chen corrected. Every human child knows tales of people who faced extinction and found a way to live. It shapes how we think about problems. What kind of thinking? Chen smiled. But there was sadness in it. That there is always another option. That defeat is only final when you accept it. That any solution is acceptable as long as your people survive. Veltar thought about the battle he had witnessed. Human ships turning into weapons, crews sacrificing themselves to save their comrades. Tactical decisions that seemed insane but somehow worked. Is that why you weaponize everything? Even your defeats? We weaponize everything because we have to, Chen replied. On Earth, the difference between a tool and a weapon is usually just how you use it. We learned to see weapons in everything because sometimes that was all that stood between us and extinction. A communications officer approached them. Admiral, we are receiving casualty reports from the rescued crews. Chen reviewed the data. 43 humans had died in the battle. Each name had a file attached with personal information, family contacts, and service records. You memorize your casualties, Veltar observed. Every one, Chen confirmed. Because they died fighting for humanity's survival. They become part of our story, part of what we carry forward. Veltar watched as Chen sent personal messages to the families of the dead. She did not use form letters or official language. Each message was written specifically for that family, mentioning the soldiers' specific contributions and character. How do you function with such loss? He asked. Because their deaths have meaning, Chen replied. They died so others could live. In human culture, there is no greater honor. The ambassador finally understood why the galaxy feared humanity. It was not because humans were better warriors or had superior weapons. It was because humans had a fundamentally different relationship with death and defeat. Other species saw death as an ending. Humans saw it as a tool to be used if necessary. Other species saw defeat as failure. Humans saw it as information to use in the next battle. Other species fought until victory was unlikely. Humans fought until fighting was impossible. The Krithmori will return soon, Veltar said. With more ships than before. Yes, Chen agreed. They will come with everything they have, expecting to crush us with overwhelming force. Are you afraid? Chen looked out at the stars, thinking about the battle ahead. Of course. Fear keeps you alive. But we will not let fear stop us from doing what needs to be done. Even if you cannot win, Ambassador. Humans do not think in terms of winning and losing. We think in terms of surviving and dying. As long as one human lives, we have not lost. The communication system activated with an urgent message. Long-range sensors had detected the incoming Krethmori reinforcements. Thousands of enemy ships were approaching the system. It is time, Chen announced to her crew. Send the message to all ships. Prepare for the final battle. Veltar watched the humans ready themselves for what appeared to be certain death. They checked their weapons, said prayers, and wrote final letters to their families. But they also smiled. They made jokes. They seemed almost happy to face impossible odds. Now he understood why the galaxy feared them. Humans were the only species that looked at extinction and saw it as a challenge to overcome. The Krethmori returned with the largest fleet Ambassador Veltar had ever seen. 5,000 bioships filled the space around Altair Prime, their dark hulls blotting out the stars. The enemy had brought everything they had to crush these strange new opponents. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, studying the tactical display. 8 human ships faced an enemy force 600 times larger. By every mathematical calculation, the humans should retreat immediately. Instead, Chen opened communications to both her fleet and the Krethmori. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Federation. You have made a mistake coming here. Humanity did not climb to the top of the food chain by accepting defeat. We did it by making our enemies regret trying to put us there. The Krethmori responded as they always did. Their massive fleet charged forward in an overwhelming wave. Confident that sheer numbers would guarantee victory, they had used this tactic to conquer 12 star systems. But humans had spent 3 days preparing for this moment. All ships, execute Terran Solution Alpha, Chen ordered calmly. Veltar had no idea what a Terran solution was, but the human fleet immediately began doing things that defied all military logic. The cruiser UHS Relentless suddenly vented its entire atmosphere into space, creating a massive cloud of frozen gas and debris. Then it ignited the cloud with its engines, creating an explosion that damaged dozens of nearby Krethmori ships. They turned their own air into a weapon. Veltar whispered in shock. Standard procedure, Commander Walsh replied. When conventional weapons fail, humans weaponize everything else. The destroyer, UHS Fury, did something even stranger. It disconnected its main gun and fired it like a massive missile using emergency thrusters. The weapon tore through 3 enemy bioships before exploding. How is that possible? Veltar asked. Human engineers always build things to be modular, Walsh explained. Every component can become something else, if necessary. But the Kreeth Mori had learned from their previous defeat. They did not cluster together this time. Instead, they surrounded the human fleet in a perfect sphere, attacking from all directions at once. The humans began taking heavy damage. The frigate UHS Courage lost its entire front section to enemy fire. The corvette UHS Defiance was cut in half by bioship weapons. Yet instead of retreating, the humans did something that made no sense at all. They began using their damaged ships as components in larger weapons. Captain Morrison of the crippled Courage ejected his ship's power core and used thruster control to guide it into the enemy formation. The reactor exploded like a miniature star, destroying everything within a kilometer radius. He turned his own ship's heart into a bomb, Veltar said in horror. Captain Morrison survived, Walsh reported. He and his crew evacuated through the maintenance airlocks 30 seconds before detonation. The battle continued, and the humans kept finding new ways to weaponize their defeats. When the corvette Defiance was cut in half, both sections kept fighting independently. The front half used its remaining weapons, while the rear half served as a supply depot for other ships. The science vessel UHS Discovery had never been designed for combat. When Kreeth Mori bioships surrounded it, the crew did something unprecedented. They turned their research equipment into weapons. All ships, this is Discovery, announced Captain Park. We are deploying Terran Solution Gamma. Stand clear. The science ship released hundreds of research probes that had been modified into guided missiles. Each probe contained samples of Earth bacteria that had been weaponized to attack bioship hulls. The enemy vessels began dissolving from within. They turned their own research into a plague, Veltar said, his voice shaking. Biological warfare is forbidden under galactic law. Admiral Chen replied. But the Kreeth Mori are not party to our treaties. And desperate times require desperate measures. The tide of battle was turning, but slowly. For every human victory, 10 more enemy ships took the place of those destroyed. The mathematics were still overwhelming. Then the humans did something that changed everything. All ships, prepare for Terran Solution Omega, Chen announced. Veltar had learned to fear human tactical codes. What is Solution Omega? Something we hoped we would never have to use, Chen replied grimly. The remaining human ships suddenly stopped fighting and began flying directly toward the largest concentration of enemy vessels. But they were not ramming. They were doing something far worse. Each ship began broadcasting its complete technical specifications on all frequencies. Engine designs, weapon schematics, tactical doctrine, everything. They were giving the Kreeth Mori access to all human military technology. Have you gone insane? Veltar screamed. You are giving them everything. Watch and learn, Chen said quietly. The Kreeth Mori began absorbing the human technical data into their bioships, just as the humans had known they would. The enemy had always adapted by stealing the best features of their defeated enemies. But this time, the technical data included something special. Hidden deep within the engineering specifications was a computer virus designed specifically for organic technology. The moment the Kreeth Mori systems tried to process human data, the virus activated. Every enemy bioship in the system suddenly stopped moving. Their organic computers crashed as the virus spread through their networked minds. Thousands of vessels became helpless floating hulks. You poisoned your own technology, Veltar said in amazement. We poisoned the data about our technology, Chen corrected. The real specifications are quite different. We learned long ago that information can be a weapon too, but the humans were not finished. As the Kreeth Mori fleet drifted helplessly, Chen broadcast one final message. Attention, Kreeth Mori. This is what happens when you fight humans. We do not just defeat our enemies. We turn their own strengths against them. Your ability to adapt has become your weakness. Your unified mind has become your vulnerability. She paused, letting the message sink in. You came here to destroy us because you thought we were like every other species you have faced. You were wrong. We are the species that survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and planetary plagues. We are the species that turns disasters into opportunities. The Admiral's voice grew harder. Leave this system now, and never return to this part of the galaxy. If you do, we will show you what humans do to enemies who threaten our survival. And you will not like the lesson. For the first time in their recorded history, the Kreth Mori sent a surrender signal. Their disabled ships slowly limped away from the system, carrying news of their defeat back to their home territory. The greatest military force the galaxy had ever seen had been stopped by 12 human ships. Veltar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. How did you know they would absorb your technical data? Because we studied them, Chen replied. Every enemy has weaknesses. The trick is finding them, and then creating weapons specifically designed to exploit them. And if they had not taken the data, then we would have used Terran Solution Tau, Walsh said, or Sigma, or any of the other 57 contingency plans we prepared. Veltar realized that humans planned for every possibility, including ones that seemed impossible. What would Solution Tau have been? Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Something much worse. Humans have a saying, there is always another option. We just prefer that our enemies surrender before we have to use all of them. 6 months later, Veltar stood before the Galactic Council delivering his report. The hall was packed with representatives from every known species, all waiting to hear about humanity's victory over the Kreth Mori. The humans succeeded where all of our forces failed, Veltar began. But not in the way any of us expected. In where? He activated a holographic display showing the battle recordings. They did not win through superior firepower or numbers. They won because they think about war differently than any other species in the galaxy. The council members watched in fascination and horror as human ships turned themselves into weapons, weaponized their own defeats, and ultimately used the enemy's greatest strength against them. The humans fight like no other species because they evolved like no other species, Veltar continued. Their world tried to kill them for millions of years. They learned to turn every disaster into a survival advantage. Counselor Yithron raised a glowing hand. What does this mean for the galaxy? Veltar thought about Admiral Chen's final words to him before he left Earth. It means we now know why humans have never lost a war. It is not because they are the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced. He paused, remembering the smile on Chen's face as she watched the Kreth Mori fleet retreat in defeat. It is because they are the only species in the galaxy that looks at impossible odds and considers them a starting point rather than an ending. They are the only species that refuses to accept that defeat is final. The hall fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans are not just the galaxy's ultimate warrior civilization, Veltar concluded. They are the ultimate survivors. And there is nothing more dangerous than a species that simply will not stop fighting. In the months that followed, no species ever challenged human space again. The Kreth Mori disappeared back into the dark void between stars, carrying warnings about the strange species that turned defeat into victory. And humanity continued to do what it had always done. They prepared for the next crisis, the next impossible challenge, the next extinction event. Because on Earth, the only constant was that survival was never guaranteed, and humans had learned to be very, very good at surviving.